All right. So I see a few topics on the document. Please continue adding anything that you'd like to discuss, but let's get it kicked off and rolling. So thank you all again for attending our bi-weekly Kubernetes Working Group Forum. And let's get started with the first topic on there, which is Korifi 0.11.0. Yay.
Yeah, it's out.
Whoop.
That enables the gateway API support, which means that you should theoretically be able to substitute your networker with something else like S2.
Cool. I'm sure that will be greatly appreciated by a number of people. So awesome. I'm glad that it's finally made it in. And we can get this out to people. All right. Unless there are further comments on that, let's move on to the second one, which is a Kpack pull request.
Yeah, the background of this is that we've got a bunch of dependable PRs that we can't merge because new versions of the Kubernetes API is not compatible with Kpack. So we've PR'd Kpack with a fix. It required some minor changes on their side, but it has not been merged yet. So I think that last week we talked about it. I don't know. I think Phil was going to ping them about this PR.
I think
Any news there?
I think it was Julian actually, and I honestly don't know.
Julian, yeah.
I don't know that we got a response internally.
I can see that actions have been allowed on this PR and all the checks are green, but someone has to click on the merge button and do a formal review of the PR.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I see it.
this is blocking us from bumping a bunch of dependencies of others because they're moving to the new version of the K8s API as well. And we can't merge them.
Okay. I'll check with Julian today at some point and also try to follow up with the Kpack team to see where it's at and see if there are any roadblocks or if we can help move it along. So things take time, but hopefully we can get some sort of reply on this today or tomorrow. And if there are any roadblocks, I'll make sure to drop a message in the Slack channel to see how we can resolve them. Cool. And the next topic looks interesting. UAA support.
Yeah, it's a question that has been just asked on the Korifi dev channel. So basically the author is asking, do I need to expose my users with the kubeconfig for the cluster if they want to use Korifi? So ironically, this kind of aligns with the efforts that we are spending internally at SAP trying to integrate UA, existing QA, as identity provider on the cluster. This has the nice effect that once you do that, you don't need to provide kubeconfig to your users because the CF CLI itself talks to the UA directly to get a authentication token. So yeah, we have a explore story that we wrote a year ago almost, which basically covers the changes that we had to implement, but we just left it there. But apparently there is some interest in this from the community, sort of. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I know we have historically tried to avoid doing too much around the various identity providers and the functionality and hoping that everyone can kind of make sure that whatever bespoke solution they have, they could implement on their own. But I don't think we're against providing that option if people are working on it. So if y'all are working on it internally to provide that, and it would work for another party, I think that would probably be useful.
I wonder whether we want to restrict ourselves to eventually just UA, or in the spirit of Korifi, would we want to plug an arbitrary OIDC provider? But that would require some changes on the CF CLI as well, because CF CLI talks to,
The way to go about this is like the UA itself can delegate to other OIDC providers over OIDC. So maybe that's the way, because then the CLI remains unchanged. That's pretty much what we do, right? So it should work for any OIDC provider behind the scenes with the client secret and client ID. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what's the minimum scope that we can bring to the open source with this thing, because starting to talk about UAA, you then go on and start talking about the user endpoints and so on and so forth. So we'll have to give it some more thought and see what the first iteration could look like. Yeah, but it's a nice signal that people have interest. Then maybe it's yeah, it could be a bump in priority.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice signal. I'm curious too, just because I'm not as deep in the weeds as the rest of you. If this would make any, like, how much of the changes would happen to like our like declarative user who has like a bunch of YAML files and wants to apply them, you know, even if they're Korifi CRs. I don't know if that makes a difference here.
Not that many changes actually. Like if you we posted the response to that guy in the channel, and there you can find the Explorer story. Everything's listed in there, but it's that CF on K8s flag. Like we actually had to make changes to the CLI that we now are not going to need anymore, at least for the UA mode, because once you get the UAA, you don't care. Maybe you can even use an older CLI because it will just find the UAA on the endpoint. One thing we will have to do is inject the UA URL in the root so that can be discovered. And the rest is pretty much additive changes. I wouldn't say, Daniel, do you remember if the JWT token handling had to be changed? I think we had to introduce the origin, the OIDC origin, the thing like prefix colon and then username, because of OIDC, but I think that's a nice change anyway. So I don't think it will be too intrusive, and it will be up to whoever deploys Korifi to decide how it's going to be used, because if you don't deploy the UA and configure it, then you should obviously use the kubectl and Kubernetes users. Otherwise, you plug in one more namespace of users, which is coming from the UAA, and potentially it can be propagated from another OIDC provider. I guess you could probably put Facebook or Google behind the UA. So yeah, I think, yeah, and then the question is, what do we do with the user endpoints? Listing users, creating users, assigning roles to users, and it will be interesting to think about this in the two contexts. Like, can we come up with an overlapping implementation that accommodates the UA, but also can work with straight K8s users? We haven't thought too much into that direction, but it's definitely on our list because we want to use the UAA and we don't want to use a fork of Korifi forever. So I guess we have to address this in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, it would certainly be interesting to see what a preliminary glance at that would look like. Definitely before too much effort is invested in implementation, but it would probably be useful for users that are coming from the traditional CF world, as well as others that want to not have the kubeconfig world working in that fashion. So yeah, could be interesting to see. All right. Unless there are more questions or thoughts on that, we'll keep moving along. So the next topic is support for services. What's the best way to demo this currently? And what's the future of this? So the services support is clearly not the full suite from traditional Cloud Foundry. We do have the service bindings you can create and all that, but it's pretty much bring your own services and wire them up rather than having a service marketplace implementation. So I'm not sure what the best way to demo it is currently, other than sort of create your own service and then create that service binding and sort of show that it can connect to whatever, some database and service somewhere or something like that. But there isn't a example that I know of that is a quick apply.
On our internal prototype, we are spiking on managed service support and it looks promising, but we're not in the shape to contribute them back to open source. Other than that, in the beginning of our experiment, we needed a Postgres for one of our internal components. And what we did was to install the Postgres Helm chart and just create a user-provided service containing the Postgres URL, username, password, the things that you want to use to connect to the database. So maybe that's an option to demo them.
Yeah. Good to know.
Good, sounds good. Thanks for those tips. And I think the reason I asked this question is, KubeCon Paris is coming up. There'll be questions about kind of readiness, Korifi is at right now, and things like that. And I think services is like that one kind of missing piece that we'd love to have answers to. So I just wanted to ask ahead of time and avoid some embarrassment at the booth. But also, generally speaking, I think whenever we talk about Korifi and demo Korifi a lot, the question of services always comes up, and it'd be nice to obviously it'd be nice to have like the full CF marketplace experience, but it'll be nice to at least know and be informed of what options are available for various teams.
We are really interested to this topic.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're actively exploring this right now. Unfortunately, as Danny said, we're not in shape to bring anything back to the community yet, but I guess we'll be interested to, because as I already said, we don't want to be running on a fork. We've done some managed service implementation in a fork currently without, for example, it's not up to now it's not including service broker support, but now we're trying to bring that in because we believe it might be the right way anyway. So if we have something more interesting, I mean, when we have things shaped up a little bit more, I guess we'll start drafting a proposal. I can't really give any timelines because we're not very high on resources right now. But yeah, it's coming up, and it will be interesting to discuss it in this round as well. We'll definitely make sure to post it once we're done. But we're still experimenting and collecting data points so that we can come up with this.
Cool.
Thanks for the inputs, all of you.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what emerges from that. So thank you for taking a look at that. All right. So it looks like we have the final topic of KubeCon Paris.
Yep. So mid-March is approaching fast. Phil, I think you also had something to add around this topic? Did I kind of overwrite?
You didn't overwrite it, but I was starting to write it out, and I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
Ram's already doing that." So
All
no, I actually, to be fair, the reason I was putting it on is I just wanted to check in to see what the plans were from the CFS. So
Sure. Yeah, so much like KubeCons of the past, Cloud Foundry is signed up to be a silver sponsor at the event, which means we'll have a booth and swag and whatnot. But there's obviously an opportunity to for folks from the community to come forward, be part of the booth. There's a booth sign-up sheet and things like that. I'll share that widely with the community, but obviously a big part of KubeCon is to focus on work being done on Korifi. So there's going to be a booth, the regular set of handouts and promos and things like that. We're going to continue to place some marketing focus on the Korifi project. So you'll hear about Korifi on like any PR stuff that we put out, any blogs and other things leading up to the event and so on. So everybody is obviously invited. There's complimentary passes available. If you're if that's a blocker, please let us know. And then, like I mentioned, I'll share details about the sign up sheet and things like that. So if you can make it to KubeCon, it'll be awesome to have you at the booth. And if there's anything we can do to help you get there in terms of like comping a pass or something like that, just let us know. We'll see what we can help you out with. And I think later this month we'll also be announcing a Cloud Foundry Day New York City. So that's going to be again fully Cloud Foundry focused event, but more details on that later. So
great.
Awesome. Yeah. That'll be interesting. Looking forward to hearing about that.
Cool.
Definitely, depending on where you are geolocated, some events are easier to attend than others. So yeah. All righty. So I'm not seeing any more items of discussion appearing. So now's a chance to bring them up if anything strikes your fancy right now. If not, 3, 2, 1, sold. All right. If not, then we'll see y'all in about 2 weeks and we can get some updates on various things and see how everything's going. So once again, thank you all for attending. Some valuable information here. So yeah, until the next time.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
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 Bye bye.